So this is the Reve-D RDX with the Tune 2024-2025 livery on it. This is going to be the car that we use for competition this year. Yeah, let's have a look at it. Basically, I've stumbled upon something that you know, I don't think a lot of people possibly know about, and that is installing one of these. The top and bottom of it is basically the diff out of the TA06. There is some positives to using this diff over the YD2 stock diff, but we'll get into it. Just before we get started, I will show you what we've done to the RDX so far. We've not done a hell of a lot to it, to be honest. Okay, so this is the RDX. Currently from the factory, really. I've got all the links, are factory links. The shock springs all set up completely to factory near enough. I've been messing with the gearing a little bit. I don't massively want to go into that just yet until I'm completely happy with the gearing. In terms of tuning and setting up, it's probably literally just a few tips and tricks I've learned, and a YD2 diff out in the back. So my mate's got a YD2. He upgraded to the Shark, put the CLSD diff in there. So as soon as he did that, I was like, kind of re-diff, just to see how it differed from a spool. Personally, I do quite like the feeling of a geared diff, if I'm completely honest. The CLSD, I've not really messed with it enough to say it's good or it's bad. There is perks to both, and obviously, out of all three, realistically, the spool is going to give you the forward momentum that you'd need. But again, I've not messed too much. I quite like a geared diff, always have done. That's pretty much so far all we've done majorly. Obviously, the biggest and most obvious sort of thing that we've done here is we've put the wrap up necks X Cross kit on it. Again, it was not a necessity. I wouldn't quite say it was more of I like it. I really do like the wrap up stuff, and it is one of those things where once they go out of stock, they vanish. We put the sheep on there because obviously the main reason we got into an RDX was everybody else was, and I thought, you know what, decent chassis, build it, set it, forget it, and just have it as a run car. I've got 1,000,001 different chassis for modding and messing with, but I wanted something that was like comparable, straight out the box, no bullshit, just boom, done. And yeah, the RDX, or obviously the RD2, was probably the choice. I went with the RDX just purely on, I thought, you know what, it's, you know, the reviews are good, people seem to love them, and yeah, it's not disappointed. In terms of my front end, again, all the little dress up screws aren't essential. That's just, you know, adding that little bit of sort of flair to it. The only modification, I suppose, is just here on the top deck. You've got I've got a 2mm spacer in there. Just brings the whole front end up a little bit. I've just found it just makes it a little bit more responsive, and it snaps like an absolute animal. Not even sure. Probably the next thing I'd look at would be potentially, I'm not even sure, maybe a 13.5 turn motor. But again, for now, we've got the Agile or the Agile, depending on where you're from. And yeah, it's sound. We're running that to a rad out in the back, and again, the rad's spot on. I do have a double X, but again, I don't feel the need personally for something like that for me. You know, I'm not fine tuning to that level. We've got RC Driftworks, obviously, who we now work with, Rc Driftworks. He's sort of doing our maps, he's helping us tune the maps and basic setups, alignments, all that sort of stuff, and just trying to make, you know, the chassis as easy to drive as you can. Like I say, the LP86 is my absolute personal favourite. I'm a massive fan of the LP, and yeah, it's mint. But again, that's the car that it's not just like these sort of things where you point them and shoot them and they go. The LP86 is a little bit more, you have to drive it, you know, you have to factor in the weight of the car when you're flicking it round. That's my preferred style of driving. But again, for me, it's what's the point in having a car like this to this sort of spec and not be comping? So this is sort of going to be the competition build for now. Will we get a Galm? Possibly. Will we look at an RD2? You know, maybe again. But for right now, yeah, the RDX is the one for me. You know, you get a decent amount of lock out of it straight out the box. There's no bullshit, no messing around, just boom, straight in. And yeah, that's what I'm just looking for, really, is just fun. Right, so the diff, let's get into that. So again, this is just the Tamiya TA06 steel gear differential unit. It's pretty much a YD2 diff. It's quite similar to the one you tend to find in the buggy series with the metal gear in. But you know, for me, I just thought the 15 quid cheaper than a YD diff, so I'll give it a shot. You know, worst case, I'm into Tamiyas anyway, so you know, it's only a matter of time. But yeah, it's just more of an overview really. Yeah, you know, it's just more of an overview of the product. It's a TA06 diff. It's got steel gears. In terms of tunability, I do quite like that you can just mess with the oils, make it looser, tighter, etc. For me, I'm just going to build this as per the kit. We'll whack it in, and as soon as I'm back out on the track, we'll get some footage of it running around with a diff in. I'm guessing it's not going to be majorly different to a YD diff in terms of your performance, but it's more of the diff that's actually in this. I borrowed 4 or 5 months ago, and it's about time I returned it, really. So I just thought, you know what, we'll get the diff done, we'll get it built, knock out a little video on the RDX, and then obviously in the future we've got a hell of a lot more videos to come. So yeah, when you're building something like this, ideally you have a little magnet tray just to work out. Something like this, just put a little bit of speed in, just to stop it missing. So the last thing you want is to get halfway through this sort of process. And obviously dip missing, it's just a massive, massive pain in the arse. So I'll just transfer all these over. That's absolutely fine. These sort of things like pins, you know, if you stop using right pins, you've got a very good time. Then I'll put a major. It's not an overly complex diff, to be honest. The main things to sort of watch out for are your fluid levels. Just making sure obviously everything's tight, your gasket's in there, because the last thing you want again is to build all this up, no gasket, take it to a track, it dumps its oil. So yeah, let's get going with this one. Like I say, it's a relatively straightforward build really, is this diff. So you've got your little O-ring there, your O-ring goes in, you get your outdrive shaft and push that through from the outside. You know, some people do sort of lubricate this up, but in my experience, adding any sort of grease or oil or lubes or anything tends to just encourage everything to leak out. So It's not something I do. I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that's not how I tend to build my diff gears. And again, all you're looking for here is obviously your washer's gone in. It's this centre pin again now that needs to go in. These can be a little bit fiddly. I'll probably end up speeding this up, to be honest, because they end up driving me mad. I do have a set of tweezers, but not a clue where they are. Put it there. And pretty much you're looking to locate the pin through the centre axle. This might not be the main yard. Yeah, there we are. So yeah, it can be a little bit of a pain. You just want to get that nice and central like that. And then your larger gear there, you've got the little slots in the back. It's all sort of pressure fit, there's no screws or anything like that. You just literally get the bevel gear and that just pops on like that, and that's pretty much sound so far. The outer drive tends to be a little bit easier because you've got a little bit more room to play with inside the actual housing itself. Obviously there's no walls or anything, so it's a little bit easier to sort of just pop that in there. Same sort of thing though, is shaft goes through, O-ring in, push it down there, get it nice and seated. Again, I tend to just run these dry, but you know, everyone's a little bit different. Let's give that a little poke in there. O-ring on the back, same sort of thing. Push that over the top, but you see here you've got so much more access to actually get that pin centered and located through, which I have to do really. Getting the reason why it's on both sides, again, I don't get to this point is so we can obviously that's what you need to do. You don't need a chance to solve, but you just switch it whatever you want. We don't fit the pin. So it's easier. It doesn't fit the pin, it should slide there a little easier like so. And then slip straight out the other side almost. Again, it's just one of those things. It's a patience thing. You know, not everything goes perfectly to plan. It is what it is. These pins are a pain in the arse, actually. In terms of weight oils, does come with some Tamiya damper oil. I think it's got the weight in Japanese on it. I'm going to build it as is for now. I've got some 10,000 weight, 20,000, possibly some 15,000 weight oil. So we can give that a little tune over time. See what works, see what doesn't work for us. But obviously I'm just going to sort of build it as per the kit. Just simply when you look at it's and then by the gear, try to get that the gear, so you point to bit, press a bit, and then the cycle just goes in there. And then you have in there. Next pins, so you can grab. I know that Tamiya with the spider gears on some of the stuff like the TTO2s, these are just a plastic unit. Obviously a metal unit isn't going to perish quite as quick. Although quite interestingly here, with the TT diffs, you do actually get a you get like a little washer that goes behind these gears. On this one you don't, it's kind of integrated. But even in terms of maintenance over the YD diffs, all your replacement parts for these are like nowhere near, you know, you're talking like £3 for a set of gears. Where with the Yokomo stuff, you ain't going to get gears for £3. Again, it's not that I'm not a fan of Yokomo. You should be able to see these gears now as well operating, which is quite nice. But yeah, no, it's not that I'm not a fan of Yokomo stuff. as per the manual there, that's saying just cover the bevel gears, which they're all covered, they're nice and coated. All there is left to do now really with this one is put the gasket in. I might put a teeny tiny little bit of oil on that gasket. Hopefully we will get that Tamiya sort of satisfying click. Yeah. And then obviously don't sort of over rotate this now whilst you're putting your screws in. Another technique that I use, which is from my BMXing days really, is crisscross all your screws. So it's going to give these a tiny little punch here, just sort of get them where they're going to start working themselves in. Also, shout out to Tamiya, they do actually give you 5 of these little screws. So if you drop one during build or anything like that, you should be pretty sweet really. That's sweet. Diff's feeling good. It's feeling a little bit looser actually than the YD2 diff that I've currently got in my car. Got a tiny little bit of seepage, which, you know, that's pretty normal. Once you've wiped that off, that should just be a case of sweet, you know. It's actually feeling very loose, that, in comparison to my YD diff. But I'm sure it'll be fine. If not, we can always pop it back open, put a little bit more oil in there. Yeah, so next step is get it into the car. Right, so in terms of the RDX itself, it is pretty easy. You've got 4 screws here in the back on the diff cover. It's literally just a case of unscrew all 4 and the diff should be out. You know, you name it, we were sort of delivering it. Oh yeah, this diff is so much tighter, so much looser than the YD one, which I don't know if that's a gift or a curse at the moment. We will figure that out as we go along. But yeah, without further ado, this box is pretty nice. It's just a case of pop the bearings off this box, pop them onto this box, and they are so damn close in terms even how they look, how they're built, you know. Obviously the YD one is a teeny tiny little bit fatter, but that's not going to cause us too much concern, I don't think, at this point. Do need a little flat blade, pardon me. Diff feels so loose in comparison to the YD, but again, it's an oil thing. You know, I do have 10k. If I'm not happy, I can drop some 10k in there. But in terms of it all fitting, marrying up, it is literally direct. You know what I mean? There is a tiny little bit of side-to-side play, so I will give that. I'll put some spacers on there just to stop the diff, obviously, rocking side to side. But yeah, in terms of your ratios and that, you know, it's the exact same ratio of gears. And yeah, it's just one of them things. I just thought, saving yourself 15 quid, why not, eh? One thing I haven't checked though is that the drive cups are the same. I'm guessing they are. I can't see there being a massive difference in your drive cups really. Yeah, straight in. And yeah, without sort of further ado, it's just a case of get all this lined up, get it back in the car. So yeah, there we are. We'll chuck this back on off camera and we'll take it for a whirl and we'll see how the diff actually gets on. It is feeling very loose in the back of there. You know, is it too loose? Am I going to lose forward drive? We'll have to run it and find out really. But yeah, nice one for watching. Yeah, obviously if this sort of video tends to do all right, I might do a few more of them. You know, I have had some feedback saying, you know, why don't you talk in your videos? Why don't you do this? So thought we'll give it a try. We'll give it a shot. At least then we can turn around and say, well, actually, you know, they don't do well. They do well, whatever. We can go from there. Right. So until the next one, nice one. Oh yeah, just before we go, we'll just give it a little zip. No issues. Actually, it's still got quite a bit of give in it. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. Cool. Got probably feeling wise, it's slightly smoother. We'll just knock that fan off. But ultimately, we won't know until we get it out on the track and give it some laps. So until next time.